Hey Guardians, welcome to another post-trials report video. Today I have DeathByRay with me. He's been a pretty intense PvP player. I've played with him quite a bit in the past. He's one of my friends, and I'm pretty excited to have him here on this little conversation.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, for sure. So the trials map this week was Blind Watch. What did you think whenever you first heard this map was Blind Watch?
Well, actually, honestly, it had been so long since I played on Blind Watch because they put out those year two maps in there that at first my brain went to Firebase Delphi and was like, oh, that's that map. Cool, that'll be good. And then I realized very quickly, oh, that's the wrong map. And immediately went to, oh man, I'm not sure how I feel about that because just from playing Control and Sixes on this map, it's kind of, at least notoriously for me and some of my friends, always felt kind of like a very one-sided map. There's definitely a good spawn, and then there's a spawn that's not so great. So I was kind of a little apprehensive going into it just because of that, but also excited because sometimes a map will be a lot different for threes than it is for sixes. So I was cautiously optimistic, I guess.
Yeah, that's so true. I was on Twitch, I was on Twitter like right as soon as noon Central Time hit, and I was just waiting to see what it was because I was pretty excited. I was hoping it would be like a really fun map. Really enjoyed last weekend. I was looking forward to this weekend, and then I saw that it was Blind Watch, and my heart just kind of sank. So I instantly Googled a call out map to tweet it out, and then I saw there were like 30 different different named locations in this map. And some call outs for maps only have like maybe 6 different call outs. This one has like 25, 30. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hectic. This is going to be crazy. I already knew sort of the rep that it got from sixes, so had no clue what to expect for threes. But let's talk
Well,
strategy really fast. Or did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of bleeds over into strategy. So I'll just kind of start there. Part of the thing about this map is it is a very complex map. There's lots of different levels, and I know that's one thing a lot of people were a little bit unhappy with because there were parts that they were like, man, I can't tell if this guy's above me or below me, or I don't even know where I just got shot from. There's a lot of weird angles in this map, and I know that's something that several people I talked to have all kind of commented on. There were places that I got sniped, but I had absolutely no idea where I got hit from, and so that was something that's to be said for both sides, both spawns. But as far as strategy goes overall, like I said before, this map did have kind of a one-sided feel. Because of a lot of those weird angles, it ended up becoming kind of a campy, doing air quotes, map because there was, if you got Bravo spawn and you're spawning over where you can just hop up inside that building and camp that middle hallway where I'm sure when they show the heat maps, that's going to be 95% of the engagements right there. If you have that spawn, if you're on Bravo spawn, you can pretty much camp the hallway and kind of try to force the enemy team to kind of play up to your terms because it either became a waiting game, just waiting for someone to move in there, and then you could snipe them real quick, or end up going to the buzzer, and you're trying to have a crazy war for that capture point. So it was an interesting trials map and a lot different than I think any trials experience I've had, just because of the nature of how the map went and how people were playing those spawn points and objectives.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. If there's one word to describe this map for trials, I think campy is the right word for it because there in sixes definitely that lower Bravo spawn inside the building is by far the better one because you can just you first of all C is right next to you whenever you spawn,
Yeah.
and then B is inside the building. So if you can hold down inside the building and just pop your head out and kill somebody who's trying to take C every now and then, you've got that game won for sixes. But threes, yes, that is a very, very fortified lower half. But in sixes, we don't really see you playing a lot outside by the carousel rotating fan thingy. If you get the top spawn and you manage to camp that out, I did that a few times, and that is actually a very, very advantageous spawn because you're uphill looking down on them the entire time. If they try and press you from like if you're sitting on outside and they're running outside of a door, they're so easy to pick off. Or if they're jumping up to that top patio area, they're very, very vulnerable if you're just waiting outside for them. So both sides, I feel like, spawn in very advantageous positions, and they just kind of meet in the middle at that central hallway, and there's this huge stalemate between, like you said, that special room, the circle special room behind B, and then that top patio where they know if they drop down they're going to get slaughtered, but if they stay up there they're perfectly safe and they can pick off anybody who peeks their head out. So campy is just the perfect word to describe it. And then as for strategy, it's really hard to flank on this map. I spent most of my time as the shotgunner because all my friends are really good snipers. I tried shotgunning. I tried running around and flanking, and it's just so hard on that map because they can sniff you out so easily if they're watching the radar, and it's such a long route. Like, the middle hallway is just a perfect meeting point for everything, so it's really hard to not sit there and camp.
Yeah, I agree. Although there were a couple times, I think I was playing with you on these whenever we got alpha spawn, and we kept on getting hit in that middle hallway and decided, we need to change something up. And we went and actually flanked around by the capture point and ended up going all the way behind their spawn at C, or where C normally is in sixes. And we came around that way and had some pretty good success going ahead and changing it up on them there. And we actually ended up winning that match. So that was really interesting to see if because you're just changing it up from what, if everyone else's experience was like mine. The vast majority of the time this was played the exact same every game, and there really wasn't much variety to strategies that I saw. And so when we tried to change it up like that, it actually worked out really well for a couple of matches in a row. So that was something interesting with that.
Yeah, that's true
as well.
Sometimes just mixing up your strategy entirely and doing something completely unpredictable is the best strategy, because that seemed to be all what that map was just that center hallway, which isn't very exciting on that big of a map, honestly. We had a few firefights down there by bottom heavy, and that was really fun. That's probably the most fun I had on that map, was whenever we both just sort of met in an awkward location that wasn't that central hallway or that top patio, because that was just so much happening there all the time. It's just really nice to see something different, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your loadout. What do you go into trials, or this map specifically? What were you rocking?
Well, I've actually pretty much had a very, very similar loadout each week. This is a big enough map that I could rock my sniper. I have a glass promontory. That's my baby. I've had it for a long time, and one of my first 320 weapons, and it's got the hidden hand and partial refund. I think that's the one, but it's really nice. It can't res snipe, and a lot of times people kind of go, "Why don't you do that?" But I had several kills that were the double tap. That if you're rocking 1,000-yard stare, you just can't shoot fast enough to get that before they can get away. So I use that a lot. It just feels great. I love how it handles. I have a Cyril's PDX 45. That's a good weapon. It's pretty reliable, and it has enough range that you can do some good damage from a decent distance, but it's also pretty decent close quarters. So that was nice. I run a striker. I've obviously got Fist of Havoc. I love those lightning nades, and obviously if my team needed me to run Crest of Alpha Lupi for that extra fast revive, I would do that. But if I had my choice, love the armamentarium, get double nades, and that was really nice in this map because you could stick them to some walls in that middle hallway and really cut some people off. And that was something that I actually used very well, I think, a few times, was you could block people kind of in that back room and let your teammates get some positioning while they're trying to back away from those nades. So that's something that's really nice. If you can learn how to place those, they can be very advantageous. And then I do love running shoulder charge because it's just a blast. So that's pretty much my loadout. Oh, and then I use Trusty Truth for my heavy.
So true that Truth is very trusty. I ran it on all three characters this week, and I first ran it on my Titan because the streams that I was watching whenever Trials first came out, I was watching True Vanguard, and he's just a beast at Striker Titan. And he loves using Twilight Garrison, and that's one exotic that I really want to get good at using because it's just as good as Shade Step, if not better, because you can pair it with the Titan Skate and Shoulder Charge, and you just have insane mobility as a Titan, even though you're a running tank. It's awesome. But I'm practicing with those lightning nades. I'm not quite as good at them as you are, but I'm trying to get better, and I got some pretty good placements this weekend at Trials that I'm pretty proud of. So that was my Titan. I think I was running Bad Juju and my 1,000-yard stare on my Titan, and I love Bad Juju. That's just the full auto, super stable, quick fire rate pulse rifle, and then 1,000-yard stare is just 1,000-yard stare. It can res snipe. Has decent aim assist. It has a good scope. It has Firefly just in case they bunch up. It's just a good all around sniper. As for my Warlock. Whenever I was running my Warlock, I was running with 2 other Warlocks. So the first run we tried doing triple self-res, and that was very effective. It's hard to fight against a group of all self-res Warlocks. I was running Mida Multi-Tool and Shotgun for that, I believe, just for the mobility, and like I said, I was the main flanker, just because they were really good at sniping, and that was fun. It was effective. I love using my Warlock as a rushing class, just super high agility, especially Sunsinger, because you have that shield from the melee, and then firebolt grenades, which are just ridiculous. Plus, they burn you for the longest time, so it's super easy to chase people down and finish them off. But after we got done with that run, we ran it again with 3 Warlocks, and we decided to use 1 Sunsinger, 1 Voidwalker, and 1 Stormcaller. And I was the Stormcaller of the group, and that was, once again, really fun. I've noticed that if you do want to run a Warlock, Stormcaller, and Trials, Transcendence is wonderful. Because it's not like 6s where you're going to constantly be coming up with people and you're going to constantly be out of your melee or grenade. You have a lot of downtime where you're running to places, or whenever you first spawn in, or whenever you're backing off or trying to disengage or flank around, where you're not constantly fighting people. So you can either save your melee or grenade charge or let it charge up and then use your Transcendence at a very, very important moment. And your Transcendence, you can pop it, get a kill from landfall, go chase someone down, get a kill, and then run clear across to the other side of the map and get another kill. It just lasts that long. So it's super easy to clean up an entire team with a Storm Transcendence. So that's something that I would definitely recommend trying for all you Warlock fans out there. As for my last round, I ran it with my Hunter. I was a Night Stalker. Man, those smoke nade combos are ridiculous. I love doing that. I tried the Void Wall for the first time because it's such an old map. I knew all the angles. I knew all the places to throw it. I was really successful with that. I loved doing the Void Wall on that map. And then I was once again running Mida and Shotgun because I was wanting to try and get max agility and try and flank, which didn't work out very well in my favor. But it was a strategy worth trying, and nevertheless, I really enjoyed running my Night Stalker.
Sweet.
Heavy rounds on this map. What did you think of them?
Well, those were actually some of the most interesting rounds, I think, because you had to switch stuff up, and it wasn't that same camp the hallway, camp respawn type of type of scenario. And I actually had a really good time with one of them where my teammates both were downed fairly early in the heavy round, and it was just me. And so I kind of had I just kind of went back near Alpha Spawn and camped out over there. And the other team didn't really do anything, and so and we'd gotten a couple kills. So I think they only had one guy with heavy, but they just waited the timeout, and then they all ran to the capture point, and one Truth Rocket got all 3 of them. So that was really satisfying and really kind of dumb on their part, knowing that I'm running with Truth and it will crush them. So that was really fun. But I do think that I think the heavies are at a pretty good place in this map, actually. There are spots that you can go in, and if you're going to try to rush them or even snipe at them, both spawns have spots that you can get sniped from if you're not looking out for it. But they're also fairly easily defended if you're looking for it. So I think it makes for some very interesting heavy rounds, and the map is open enough and has enough levels and enough space in it that you can have some really fun engagements with those rocket launchers, and even the occasional LMG user had some pretty good success there too. So I really liked heavy rounds on this map.
Yeah, I like heavy maps or heavy heavy ammo maps where like it's not 50-50. Where like Pantheon, you either run to high heavy or you run to low heavy. I really like, okay, this is my heavy and that's your heavy, and we have the option to press each other's heavy, but we also have the option to just all sit back and all three of us grab heavies, and then we'll just have a giant heavy round, which a lot of people don't like, but I think it, like you said, it just mixes up the gameplay. It makes for different, interesting plays. Like the one that you were talking about, that's awesome. That was hilarious whenever you just swooped in there and got that triple kill because they all were on the capture point. But for this map, I was definitely not about to pull out an LMG. This is truth, true and true. It's just such a big open map. This is one of the maps where I love zooming in with truth, getting that tracking, and then say that they're super far away. I'll just pull my reticle way up in the air or way off to the side and launch truth and just watch it like a mortar shot, just curve right in and hit them at an angle that they weren't expecting. I definitely did that a few times, and it's awesome and so much fun to pull off. For this map, LMGs can be effective. I just feel like it's so wide open and like there's so many doorways and choke points that either you're going to be caught out wide in the open and you're just going to want to launch a truth rocket at them that'll track them, or you're going to want to have something with a giant blast radius and proximity, which truth also has, that you can just place in a doorway or a choke point that they're about to run through and just blast them. So that was my impression of heavy round. It was fun. It was a good mix-up. But tracking rockets with proximity are definitely the way to go. The capture point on this map. You did mention that really good play. The capture point on this map was underneath the awning, where the old, I believe it was old B, way back before the map got changed. That's exactly where the capture point was, right next to that special ammo crate underneath the awning. And that's a really interesting point. It feels like you spawn right next to it if you have Bravo spawn, but at the same time, Alpha spawn has a straight shot at it, and because they kind of have to come around a wall, they have a little bit of cover on their approach to it. But by the time you get to heavy round, everybody's usually left their spawn and they're already mixed up around the map. But I don't know, it just felt like a bird cage under there whenever you were fighting over the capture point. Did you have any impressions whenever you were having to fight it over?
Well, first off, I would like to say, like I said, there were a lot of times that I think we got to that point where you had to go get the capture point a lot more this time around in trials because of the nature of the map. So, and a lot of times that waiting also ended up meaning lots of supers. And so there were several times that we went to that capture point and there was Titan slamming and then the other Titan slamming and then a Res Warlock popping up and just supers everywhere at that point because you're trying to clutch it out. You don't want to feel like you played that entire round to just barely lose, especially if someone else just used a super on your team and like, well, I don't want that to be a total waste, so let's win this round. So there were a lot of supers used around that point. And it has, like you were saying, it has enough cover that you can, there's some good spots to go. And I know there were a couple of times I saw some people get shotgunned from coming from Alpha spawn running down there around that little corner. And I think it was you was crouching with a shotgun there, and they came around trying to get it, and you just popped them all in a row. So, I mean, there were a lot of options. Yep. There were times that I sniped people from like way back at Bravo spawn when they were getting there, and you just snipe them, and it's like, well, you were on the point, but I killed you all. So it made for some interesting change-ups, I think. It was I really enjoyed that, where that was placed. And then, like I said, just probably a little bit because there was more opportunity to fight over that this time around than typically happens in trials.
Yeah, that triple kill with the shotgun was really fun. I knew it was getting down to the wire. I knew they were going to be coming around that corner. So I didn't wait on the capture point. I was actually on the opposite side of the bird cage, like up against that wall. And they just dropped right off from the top patio. They just dropped right down in a single file line and just pop, 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 just triple killed the shotgun. That was so much fun. But you could really, really play the capture point in this map, like you said, because it was just so stinking campy. Everybody had their supers. It always went down to the time, and it just felt like a giant super fest. I remember there was one time where I was like, oh, no, time's almost up. We got to get to the capture point. So I was the first one there. and I got Titan smashed, and then you Titan smashed the other guy, and then somebody else came in, and then somebody else came in and did another super, and it was just like a giant chain of everybody supering everybody, and I might have self-resed in there, I can't remember, but it was just a giant super fest on that capture point, and it just almost seemed like whoever had the super or the most supers won, which I'm not a big fan of. I didn't like that aspect of it. I didn't like having to play the capture point every time as much as I thought that I would. On previous maps, sometimes I'm just like, all right, guys, let's sit back and let's play the capture point because this is really about the only strategy we have at this point. But on this map, I did not want to just camp it out and wait for the capture point because I knew everybody was going to have their supers and I knew that it was just going to be a giant slaughter fest. So I felt like you really had to do things to mix it up even on the capture point. You couldn't just rush it. You had to try and anticipate how the other team was going to approach the capture point and then counter that somehow to win successfully, and not just waste a bunch of supers. So that was my impression of the capture rounds. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but at the same time it did it did force you to not camp, so I'll give it that.
Yeah.
So looking forward, take a look back on your trials experience this weekend. Is there anything that you could change about your trials runs this week?
I really would have enjoyed. Actually, first off, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more lucky with our who we got matched up against because we played Musician and I. We were playing a card and we got matched up with Grenader Jake, number 3 in the world. Trials player, and
Wow.
they just stomped all over us. So that was fun. I got a kill, and I killed him. So that's going on my resume. I've killed the number 3 player in the world of Destiny. But no, all joking aside, I really... I wish I kind of had taken a little bit more of a aggressive approach because I think all that sitting back and camping, obviously made it a little bit less exciting overall, but I think that could have been, if anything else, it could have been a good opportunity to work on some more aggressive play styles because this map does lend it towards if you can get that down, you could probably really roll over people with that. So that's something I think probably in hindsight would have been a good thing to at least work on, especially if we got a card that we ended up wiping a little bit earlier on. That would probably be a really good something to work on.
See, I'm kind of the flip coin of that. I felt like a lot of times I was rushing up there and just dying because I didn't have any support, and it's not that my team necessarily wasn't supporting, but it was just because my team was sitting back and playing their advantageous spawn or their advantageous location, and a lot of times I was rushing up there and just trying to create chaos between them, but in reality it was a 3v1 and I would just get melted each time, and in a sense I don't think that's necessarily... I do realize that I shouldn't have rushed up there a lot of times, but at the same time, I think good teamwork communication and teamwork planning and coming up with strategies and communicating those strategies effectively, a lot of times we just sort of got into a rut of, I'm going to always go to this position and snipe while you go up there and run up the side. And sometimes that would end up in them, sometimes they would end up getting a snipe and I would rush in and clean up a second kill, and then it would be a 3v1 and we could just overpower the last person. And that would work really well, but in situations where I would just get 3v1 to die, it wasn't very good for our team.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying about kind of getting in a rut and being at the same kind of, doing the same thing every time, it's just kind of one of those dangers of trials in general. Just because you're playing the same map, same spot, and even the same teams over and over again. You get 5 rounds at the very minimum playing the same team, and if you're doing multiple cards a weekend, like a lot of us are, it's very easy to fall into that rut of, hey, this is how I always play this. This was what usually works. Let's keep doing that. And honestly, a lot of times that ends up being what everyone's doing, and so you become very predictable. So I think mixing it up would have been a lot, and we did that a few times, but I guess more often switching up our game plan, playing it a little differently. As much as that might have been hampered a little bit on this map just because of the nature of how it's laid out, that probably would have helped a little bit in our runs as well. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what are you going to be looking at getting better at for next week?
Um, as much as much as I enjoy throwing my lightning grenades, and as I do some really nice things with them sometimes, I gotta. There's still a little bit of getting back in the swing with those because there's a few times that I would throw one and think, man, that's gonna hit the wall way up there, and it would stick to the ceiling right in front of me and take my health half down. So I've been trying all week to kind of work on my placement with those since obviously before too long ago was playing mostly with the Sunbreaker, and now that Striker is uh, more the meta and a lot more viable of an option than it was, that's something I need to work on and try to get back in the rhythm with a little bit more. Because they can be a super useful tool, but they can also, as any Striker Titan who's thrown one in their own face knows, they can really hurt you. So try to work on that some.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, for me, I would have to say I really, really want to practice with the No Land Beyond sidearm combo. I've seen it used successfully so many times uh, in the past few weeks, just for fun. I've just thrown on No Land Beyond and absolutely dominated with it. So I know I have the thumb skill for it. I've just got to really refine when to pull out No Land Beyond, when to pull out my sidearm, when to engage, when to back off and wait for them to come around the corner, where to place my grenades, when to prime them and then press from another side. I've really been practicing on that, and I just want to keep practicing and get better so that I can really become one of those strong No Land Beyond sidearm users. I've seen it used successfully over and over again in trials, and I'd love to run that for a serious build because a one-shot primary is just unbeatable. Granted, it's hard to aim, it's hard to use, but if you understand sniper mechanics and just apply that to close range with an iron sight, it's very, very effective with No Land Beyond. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be working on for the future.
Sweet.
What map would you like to see next weekend? If it was your choice, what would you want it to be?
Man, I really miss Pantheon. I know that's not the most popular choice, and it has lots of fun sniping things that can happen um, that a lot of people aren't huge fans of. With two of the main approaches being big sniping lanes, but that map can be a lot of fun, especially as a striker. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in and done some really fun things with lightning grenades at the low sniper alley. Um, Come around that corner and smash a whole team who's right there grouped together, kind of thinking, oh, they're going to wait back and wait for the capture point. So I think that could be a really fun encounter, and there's a lot of different ways that could go. So that's my hope. I'd love to see that one.
Definitely, yeah. That's actually been one that I've heard multiple times that people want to see back. I know it's very, very sniper heavy. But they're actually, ever since last time of trials, I've been practicing on like Rift and Control and even Mayhem Clash sometimes that I'll just run these funky routes and catch people completely off guard. So I can't wait until trials comes back around and I can try some of those different routes. Uh, since I'm usually the shotgun flanker, I might try running some crazy routes and see if I can throw people off while the rest of my team can clean up sniping. Or I might just stick to what I've been doing and snipe those long alleys on that map. I don't know. I can always keep practicing with my sniper skill. So uh, I'd love to see that map as well. Man, I missed Burning Shrine whenever it came out. I didn't get to play that weekend at all, unfortunately.
Oh
So
man.
I'd love a do-over and a chance to play that map. That was the very first Trials map, and I loved it so much. So I'd really want an opportunity to play on that map again. Well, that's all that we have for the post-Trials report this week. Death by Ray. Where can people find you if they want to get in contact? You're on Xbox One, correct?
That is correct. My gamer tag is DeathByRay777. Capital D, capital B, capital R, all one word. And I play a lot of Destiny. Also play some Mass Effect. I gotta rep my N7 out there for all my fellow Mass Effect fans. But yeah, I'm on Xbox Live. I'm on Twitter at Garrus Snipes, Garrus_Snipes. And that's about it.
Sweet. I am Whalester094, as you all know. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Whalester094. That's my typical gamer tag, typical name. You can find me at all those fun places. So thanks for checking out this post-trials report. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any suggestions or comments or crazy things that you ran into on this map, feel free to comment down there in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you and what all you experienced this weekend. So it was great having you. Thanks for coming on Death by Ray.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This is Whalester094 signing out.